Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Than a drunk obnoxious Georgia man. Go, go! Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John, Mike, and Caleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, you can find us on Fans First Sports Network and as part of Millions.co. We are doing a To Hell with Everyone this week. I don't know why my throat just got all sorts of sinusy as soon as we start. We've been talking bullshitting for way too long. But no, we're doing it To Hell with Everyone 2007 Sugar Bowl, the game against Hawaii in New Orleans. That's what we're talking about this week. Shockingly, this will be the second To Hell with Everyone for the off season. Hopefully we get back on track with those, but if not, that just hopefully means that y'all have some more interesting content to go across.
Yeah, man.
Just kind of
are you saying recapping 18-year-old games isn't interesting content?
No, it is, because I'm assuming that a lot of people don't remember this game.
Yeah, they should. This game was formative in my fandom. It's not the game that made me like an actual major fan. We have that one in the lineup, so I won't spoil anything. But it was formative for sure.
I was 17 going in my what? No, I was in my senior year. I was about to be 18 going into this game. So yeah, it's been a while. I have 4 kids mortgage.
This is a serious question. Do I just drink too often during these episodes to not realize how much older than me you are?
Maybe I just hide it while I look young.
Because we hang out outside of the show. I don't want to say pretty often because we're both busy, but like often enough. You don't seem like you're that much older than me.
He's immature for his age.
Thank you. Dude, yeah, I was in my senior year halfway through. That's like going into my second semester senior year.
All right, so you graduated 2007.
Nope, 2008, because this was January 1st, 2008.
All right, so you graduated 2008. I graduated 2014.
Oh my God.
I was about to graduate from middle school in this year. This is my 8th grade year.
I'm gonna call bullshit on that. Ain't no way.
No, 100% true. 100% true.
No, I am class of 2014.
2012 here. Yeah, so.
Class of 08. So like one of the things that we made shirts about and got in trouble about was like .08. But yeah,
All right, that is top tier. That is.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love it.
I have the shirt somewhere at my mom's house, I'm sure.
All right, so we're recording once a week, but how have y'all been? We're normally used to recording. At least I'm used to talking to you guys like Sunday and Thursday, so this is odd.
Yeah, I'm good. I had a training at work today. For some computer management stuff, and I was able to set up in my test environment that you physically could not type in the word Florida unless you began it with a lowercase f and the next one, one or more capital L's following it. So that's very useful stuff. I am drinking tonight. We had just a little bit of a cranberry wine left over from this little hole in the wall called Corson's Winery right outside of Milledgeville, Georgia. Anytime we drive through there, we pick up a little something. We just had a little bit left, so I was like, you know what? Might as well finish it off.
Wait, spell that for me, because I will be driving through Milledgeville tomorrow afternoon.
Coursons. It's closer to Sparta than Milledgeville.
Sparta.
It's like in the road in between.
Okay.
and it's super good. It's like really like a white girl sweet wine, but he decided
Oh,
one day
perfect.
this.
Yeah. No, if I'm drinking wine, I want it to taste like fruit.
Yeah, and this dude, like, it's just a guy who decided to YouTube how to make wine one day, and has just been making it basically in his backyard ever since. So, and now he makes honey and stuff. I mean, he's a cool guy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's dope. No, I mean, for me, like my parents were in town last week, and they were able to take two of my boys up to Detroit with them until we were able to visit with them. So they're having a good time up there. I'm drinking some more of that brandy, which we talked about, I think, last time on there. I thought it was cognac. It is indeed brandy. I have some more of that.
I hear she's a fine girl.
Boy is mine. Um, I don't know. Weird. But yeah, man. I mean, it's full on summer vacation right now. Got again, I'd say it every time, but I have some grad school stuff I'm working on, but it's not nearly as time consuming as working and doing grad school stuff. So I'm good, man. I'm living the life right now. But how about you?
I'm good. I went. Kelsey asked for me to pick up a gas station ice cream on my way home from winning the doubles tournament this week.
Yeah,
Um,
buddy.
Yep, we won. We won by one shot. Me and my buddy that lives down the road, we won 13 under par to 12 under par, and
Let's
it took
go.
literally us birdieing the last three holes to get 13.
Nice.
Man.
So that was nice. But while I was picking up some ice cream at the gas station, I got a little Tropicalia. I don't know if you
Okay,
can.
I can see it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tall Boy Tropicalia to make me feel like I'm at Sanford Stadium while we're talking about this game.
Yeah.
Just
When,
This game's in New Orleans, though.
yeah.
all right.
When you
Well, the good news is I do have a whiskey collection, approximately 95 bottles strong, 5 feet that direction.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
so
also,
I
I'm
can
sure we'll
feel
get
like I'm
into
in New
it.
Orleans
There we
quickly.
go. Fair enough.
when you talk about ice cream, are you talking about going to one of the ones on Victory there that have Leopold's ice cream like sandwiches there?
No, there's actually a Leopold's on Whitmarsh now.
There is,
FYI.
dude. They're great. That yeah.
They
Fun fact:
are, I
go
will
there instead of
say,
go there instead of going
skeptical.
on there. What's that?
I'm skeptical. The manager is a younger lady who is a fan of the real long fingernails with like the croc charms on them.
Oh, wow.
Like her fingernails are almost as long as her fingers, and she got like a lunchbox on top of one of them. And I just really question how her hands are clean, and then how does she put gloves on those hands?
That's a valid question.
Like, I look, if you want to eat clean, eat at home. I
Yeah.
understand that. There's a difference between eating clean and eating nasty.
Eating fingernail juice.
Right. And, just maybe if you work in food service, don't don't have don't have ghetto queen fingernails. Is look,
Yeah.
I'm just I never said anything racist there.
Nope.
But you don't see fingernails that long with charms on them unless you're in the hood.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the hood. I work in the hood regularly. I know this firsthand.
Yeah.
I don't want people with those kind of fingernails serving my food. Just saying. Just saying.
In
I
my
think Nick Castellanos is stepping up to the plate right now, as you're saying.
I will say though, like I've gone to that Leopold's a couple times since we've moved to my new house, and I haven't seen that person, but keep an eye out.
You should, because I can 100% tell you when the last time we went over there and she was scooping ice cream, I decided I didn't want any. Because how do you clean under fingernails that long every time you go to the bathroom? You
Great
don't.
point. You don't.
Humans are lazy. We don't do that.
Yep.
I'm just. All right. All right. So somebody put a real asshole note in here.
Who would have done that?
You.
Your GOAT is back, John.
All right. Is he or is he not one of top 3 most physically talented quarterbacks to ever play a game in the NFL?
No.
He's a top 3 Green Bay Packer quarterback.
Yeah.
Whoa. How many other quarterbacks have the Hail Mary completion percentage he does?
Shut the fuck up.
No. That is a serious question. That is a serious question. Like, his arm talent and accuracy is unmatched. His touchdown interception ratio is unmatched. Like, at this point, I don't like him. I understand that he's not a good person. I understand he's kind of washed up. But in his prime, is he not a top 5 quarterback in the NFL of all time?
No. Maybe
No
I would
comment.
listen. I would listen to top 15.
Whoa. 10 is even getting towards disrespectful.
Oh, all right. Come on. All right.
Do you have Tom Brady physically talent level, like physical talent? Do you have Tom Brady above Aaron Rodgers? If so,
I mean, he's got to be.
Yeah. Yes.
He's got to be. Yeah.
Physical talent level? Because
Okay,
actually, Aaron
here's the
Rodgers
thing.
has the winning percentage over Tom Brady.
Have you seen
Okay,
that man in his
great.
underwear?
How about the ring percentage though? Like,
All right. So basically, what you're saying is that man to man, Jaden Daniels is less physically talented than Stetson Bennett. It's what you just said. Stetson has more rings.
yeah. I mean, look. All I'm saying. I made the ring comment because you made the winning percentage comment. Stetson Bennett also had a higher winning percentage than Jaden Daniels. Just throwing that out there too.
Head to head, they're 500. Stetson's 500 against LSU. He won one. He lost one.
Okay, I guess not against Jaden Daniels.
He won one.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I truly believe Aaron Rodgers is more physically talented than Tom Brady.
Hang on, are we counting 2019 LSU as a loss for Stetson Bennett?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, I don't know about that.
He played in that game.
He did technically. All right. Anyway.
Okay, so to your point, Aaron Rodgers is 1-0 Super Bowls, right? No, wait, he's 1-1, right?
Super Bowls, he's 1-0.
Yeah. Damn, that's tough.
Wait, how many Super Bowls has Detroit won?
Oh my fucking god. What about the Falcons? How about that? Everybody's fan.
I don't think anybody's a Falcons fan in this.
I am just saying, Aaron Rodgers, as far as physical talent of throwing the football as a quarterback goes, top 5 all time. You can't convince me otherwise. Like, you can have your argument, that's fine.
But how many stars did a journalist give him in high school? That's what really matters.
How many quarterbacks can be like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to take a little crow hop, flick the wrist, and drop this Hail Mary in a bucket for a game-winning touchdown?
I will say, if I had one play left to win a game and I could pick any quarterback in history to put in there to win me the game in one play, it's probably going to be Aaron Rodgers.
Or if you had one quarterback to get an offsides call at any point in the history of the NFL, or one quarterback to score a touchdown on an offsides call or a pass interference
I'm taking Stetson
call.
Bennett for that one.
We're talking about in the history of the NFL.
Good. Stetson Bennett is in the NFL.
How many times has he done that in the NFL?
Oh, fair, but
I've
seen it. I've seen it.
I understand. Like, there are probably a dozen quarterbacks in the NFL that have won more Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers. And I understand. Aaron Rodgers, honestly, he's pretty washed. Like, take his time in New York, with or without the Achilles injury. He kind of sucked, right?
Yeah, but it's also New York.
It is. Regardless of that, still physically, as far as throwing the football goes, one of the best we will ever see. And
I can see we're not going to
appreciate that.
All right. Well, I can see we're not going to convince you otherwise, so maybe we just move on.
Watch his Hail Mary highlight tape and tell me that he's not one of the best throwers of the football we've ever seen. You can't.
I'd rather not, but yeah.
Actually, Mike, specifically your homework is to go back and watch that highlight reel.
You know what? I remember every aspect of that, and I don't need to.
Well, only half of those were against Detroit. The other like 6 were against other teams.
All right, let's talk about the 2008 Sugar Bowl, shall we?
We should. All right,
pleasant memory. Yeah.
So this game goes back to when Fox had the chokehold on college football postseason games, and it was
BCS. Gross. They owned all. I think they owned all the BCS games at this point, right?
They sure did, including the national championship.
I'm so glad times have changed.
Yeah.
This was gross. Yeah. So we had Tom Brennan, the guy that had the Nick Castellanos call.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah.
Doing play-by-play.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And I don't even know who the color commentary guy was. But if I'm guessing, Tom Brennan did not like the guy doing color commentary. You can take that where you will. But
I want to say it was Charles Davis, but I could be totally wrong there. I can't remember. Which makes sense. Yes.
So if you go back and fire up NCAA football 2006 and play a Sugar Bowl game, you're going to hear the exact same thing that you heard in this game. Like, this was the most generic, non-descriptive, terrible football commentary until about 10 minutes left in the game. We're going to get to why.
Well, I'll tell you, though, I appreciated the kind of generic commentary because what I was used to at the time was Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson on CBS, and everyone loves Vern these days because we're all nostalgic. I get that. But I've been making on my Instagram page, Dog Sports Memes, which you should all follow. I have been making a countdown to the season with old highlights, and every single time Georgia made a big play for a touchdown while Vern was on commentary, he made the same call. There's no flags on the play before he described the touchdown. And that tells me that he says it, by the way, 60% of the time when Georgia gets a big play in this era. I hear it all the time. That tells me he's actively looking for and rooting for a flag after every Georgia big play. And it's when you notice it, you cannot stop noticing it. It's so annoying. So Tom, thank you for calling it down the middle. As there's a drive into deep left field by Castellanos, it will be a home run.
Do y'all, okay, just real quick, like the BCS Bowls this year, I'm just going to read them off real quick. So Rose Bowl, if you can decide if there's a better commentary team. Rose Bowl was USC, Illinois. USC wants 49-17.
Yeah, that sounds
that right. That was gross, yes, indeed. Sugar Bowl, obviously, we're going to talk about Georgia and Hawaii, which was also not the best game. Fiesta Bowl was West Virginia, Oklahoma. West Virginia won 48-28 against Oklahoma. Oklahoma in the BCS games. And the Orange Bowl, Kansas and Virginia Tech.
Oh my God! Could you imagine a 4-team playoff this season of LSU, Ohio State, Georgia, and USC? Would have fed some families.
Oof, been tough.
The South would have been real happy.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, us for sure. Shoot.
Oh yeah, we would have been the champions if that was the case.
3 out of 4, baby.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to it, but the more I pay attention, like the more I go back and watch that 2007 season, there was no good team that year.
It was a lot of parity.
There was one at the end of the season. I'll get to it in a minute.
But this is a personal note. The Sugar Bowl itself, like the Superdome, Caesars, Mercedes-Benz, wherever, like whoever sponsors it. And I think I talked about this in January. It's just like it feels like you're going into a prison. And I say that like they designed this whenever they built it. I'm not sure when it was, but it was obviously the 90s or early 2000s.
Oh no, it was like the 70s. It's been around for a
Okay.
while. Yeah.
All right. So they built this with an active shooter in mind in the 70s. And I say that because in outside of the seats in the field, you don't see more than 30 feet in any direction. Like as soon as you walk into a tunnel, you have like 15 feet, you can turn right or left. And then you have another 15 feet, you can turn right or left. And that is the entirety of the concourse. Like you have the field area, and it feels like you're walking through a prison. The rest of it.
So why does I mean every other city tries to get, a new stadium. Why doesn't New Orleans try to get a new stadium? Like what attachment do they have to the Superdome?
So this is 100% speculation, but my guess is that they have generally the same people or the same group of people that have run massive events for the last 30 years that are still there, and between them, like the sheriff, the mayor, the police chief, state patrol, the person who runs the stadium, the person who runs security at the stadium, they're all the same. And they know, like, hey, if we go to the Superdome, we don't have to worry about security. We don't have to worry about fanfare. We don't have to worry about people walking. There's cabs everywhere. There's hotels within, there's like 100 hotels within a half mile. Like, it's so much less to worry about with the Superdome than anywhere else in the country.
Hmm.
But the Superdome itself is gross.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks gross. I mean, it looks like it's from the 70s because it is.
Yeah.
I really hope everyone gets an opportunity to walk through the concourse area of the Superdome, because if you do, you'll tell me I'm right. Especially if you ever visited a friend or loved one in prison. I have. If you
Yeah,
haven't, go on YouTube. There's plenty of videos in prison.
Yeah, you'll find it.
Yes.
it's great.
Um, but going into this game, Hawaii was the only undefeated team in the country.
Which is why this was the real national championship this year. Forget conference championships, forget strength of schedule. The only undefeated team in the nation facing the team that was quite clearly the hottest team in the country going into this. Like, obviously, this wasn't the two best teams in the country because look at what Hawaii did. But I will still dig my heels in the sand and say at the end of the season in 2007, Georgia was the best team in the country. And you can
Well,
argue with a wall about it.
and I mean, you look at like Hawaii's season overall this year. They were the only undefeated team in the country. Uh, both of their biggest wins of the year were at home. They beat number 12 Boise 39-27, which is impressive. It is
Yeah.
impressive. It is, sure.
Especially with
But
the recent perspective of Boise.
yeah, because they had just beat Oklahoma in that,
Yeah.
Wild Fiesta Bowl that we had talked about, last year and stuff. Or,
They were the ones everyone was predicting them to be in the Hawaii position.
yeah, exactly. So like Hawaii, supplemented them, and then they beat Washington 35-28. But the problem is Washington, as even a Pac-10 team at that point, they were 4-9 somehow. I don't understand how they're 4-9. 4-8 makes more sense. I don't understand how
Four
they're
and
was
nine
this?
is odd because it was a
Yeah.
12-game season.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that had. Mm.
Yeah, I looked it up in a couple different places and they said they were 4-9, which makes no sense unless they were like it was one of those weird like Alabama bowl ban seasons where they played an extra game in Hawaii against Hawaii because you know recruiting violations and whatnot. I don't know, but everywhere I looked it said Washington was 4-9 that year.
Yeah, that's weird. I'm looking up the schedule on their website right now to see if they have any possible information about what happened because their website also says 4-9, and I'm trying to figure out where the extra game played. Yeah, they just played an extra game against Hawaii
Maybe they
during
play like
conference
a
championship week. I
was
don't know.
that like a I wonder if it was like a week zero situation where like I think Vandy played an extra game, a couple years ago where they played 13 regular season games instead of 12. Possibly. I don't
That's
know.
yeah. They must have set something up like that. Because I don't think every Pac-10 team that year played a 13 game schedule.
I doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, highly doubt the Pac-10 would play extra games when they've worked as hard as they could to play less games.
Right. That is very true. Yeah.
To the
Well, I
point.
just looked up. Washington State only played 12, and their regular season ended with Washington the week before Washington played Hawaii. So I don't know what happened there.
Pac-12 didn't wanted to play so many less games that they just deleted the whole conference.
That's right. You're not getting a TV deal because we'd rather not play the games.
Yeah, let's show y'all.
Yeah.
All right. So Georgia wore black jerseys for the second time this year.
Hopping.
Throwback to 2020. Not really. I will say the 2007 Georgia team was probably better than 2020 Georgia.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Won't argue with you.
But
actually, that's actually a good debate. But
yeah,
we won't get into that now. But yeah,
2007 black jerseys. The uniforms look so much better with the dog bones. Is one thing you realize in this game.
Yep.
Yeah.
You see the black jerseys, especially on defense, and then you see the dog bones with the black and white popping on the red helmet. I know we are part of the minority when it comes to wanting to bring the dog bones back. At least the people that talk about it regularly.
Bring him back, y'all.
I don't care. It looks good. And the fact that there were actual stipulations and requirements to get these black or white bones makes it so much better than the Ohio State Suckeye sticker.
Yes.
Where they put 800 on the helmet by the first week of the season.
Yeah.
For sure. Those actually felt like they meant something.
Yes, and you knew who was not there to play school by who had 0 black bones.
That's right.
Indeed.
But so going into this game, Mark Richt had the 4th best winning percentage among active head coaches in college football, behind Bobby Bowden, Nick Saban, Mac Brown, Joe Paterno, Jim Tressel, and Lloyd Carr.
Good company.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Behind that is among winning company. Is probably the better way to put that.
Yeah, winning company. Not morally good company.
Right. I don't know how many of those people I would be sitting next to in church.
Yeah, Mark Richt would be the one.
I would say Mark Richt and probably Bobby Bowden?
Probably.
Whoa. Joe Paterno was very religious.
Was he now?
He was a good Catholic boy.
All right, come on now.
In the way that, hey, that altar boy, I'm going to overlook that.
All right.
That's it.
Could argue that's not okay. Well,
short and sweet, like an altar boy.
The two Catholics on this podcast will forgive you for that one.
Yeah, short and sweet, like an altar boy. Before the game, they talked about how Mark Richt was a passing coach. They literally said he was primarily a passing offense coach, and that's after.
Nobody told him that this season.
Nobody told him that. Period.
Yeah.
Because they passed the ball 42% of the time in 2007. The number 1 total offense in the country for the 2024 season, which is ironically Mark Richt's alma mater of Miami. Passed the ball 53% of the time.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Miami in 2024 had a total of 914 offensive plays. To 2007, Georgia's 864 total offensive plays. And they passed the ball 489 times compared to 2007 Georgia's 365 times.
Wow.
So passing offense has drastically changed.
Yeah.
Tell Mike Bobo he's a passing offense in 2007.
Tell Mike Bobo that he can pass as an offense.
Yeah. I got to say real quick before we go on, is there a more hated coordinator duo than Mike Bobo and Willie Martinez?
Oh my gosh, that was who was around at the time, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh man.
My God.
I would shout at Willie Martinez as a 12-year-old boy. Just a 13-year-old boy. Just like, what are you doing? Not in this game, because the defense showed out in this game.
I was about to say, in this game, the entire team looked unbeatable.
Yeah. This game single-handedly made Georgia the preseason #1 for the next season.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Which they actually talked about later in the game, ironically enough. We're going to get all that. So Georgia players of note. Thomas Brown.
Underrated dude, because he got passed by a redshirt freshman this year. Underrated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you go back and watch this game, which Person Mike, I don't know what you call yourself on YouTube, but I know we've shouted you out every time we do one of these, but like the fact that you put this game on, first off, he put this game on YouTube 5 years after it had played.
Yeah.
Which was still 12 years ago.
Yeah.
It's still a while. Shout out Person Mike.
Yeah. Whoever you are, shout out.
Thank you.
But at the time, he was 5th in school all-time rushing yards. Thomas Brown, not Person Mike, Prison Mike, whatever you call yourself.
He's probably in prison. Probably violated like copyright stuff. Yes.
Thomas Brown was an elite running back at this point in time. Matt Stafford, obviously we know where he went through his career. I mean, he's still in the NFL. He was a sophomore in this game. But we need to have a legitimate conversation about Matt Stafford while we're here.
Okay.
Am I wrong in saying that he sucked in college? Like, not that he wasn't good, but he generally sucked in college.
I would agree with that because, like, I mean, just looking at like his games and stuff like that he played in college, it's kind of like the Anthony Richardson kind of line of progression where like you can see like he has talent and all that, but like the production doesn't match what you think is going to happen with him.
He had his moments.
Yeah.
For sure.
But he wasn't like a Joe Burrow, like, holy cow, like this guy is going to tear up the league by any means.
So we're all on the same page that Matt Stafford was 2000's version Anthony Richardson.
That sucks, but yes.
Yeah, just only in that sense.
Because look, Matt, if you hear this, I'm sorry. At this point, I love you. But not only did you play terribly in college, I will never forget the time you had just been drafted by the Detroit Lions. If you listen to the show, you know exactly where I'm going. This was my first ever G Day. I was sitting there sitting there talking to the player you were standing next to talking to who had just signed my hat. And I go to hand it to you. And you turn around and walk away.
Well, I know he doesn't like interacting with Georgia fans. He talked about how weird it is to hear a "Go Dogs" in public. Like, I don't feel sorry for saying he sucked in college. Dude betrayed Georgia, whatever.
It is weird, yeah.
That is fine. 100%. If you're back between the hedges, you should expect it. First off. Second, I also think it's kind of weird you hate to hear about Go Dogs when your wife and the mother of your children you met in Athens.
Yeah.
Also, you met because you were the quarterback. Because let's not pretend that Kelly would have talked to you if you were not the quarterback of the football team.
Facts.
So the only reason that you are married and have all those kids is because you played between the hedges. And then when a group of kids comes up and tries to talk to you about like, hey man, can you sign my hat? You turn around and walk away. I'm sure
there was another quarterback she could have talked to, but yeah.
I'm still salty about it. But at the same time, I do understand that you were 21 years old and you've grown up since then.
Yeah.
But
I'm Team Joe Cox.
I'm going to call you a piece of shit for it.
Yeah.
Transparency is what it is. But
now let's move along to an actual hero.
Yeah. So, no Sean Marino.
Yes.
in the 2007 season, had 1,300 rushing yards. He was the SEC Freshman of the Year. He was also Mark Richt's biggest mistake. And before anybody freaks out, what I mean by that is Mark Richt redshirted Noshawn Marino the 2006 season. So Georgia had 2007 and 2008.
And then he gone.
And he's gone. Mark Richt's biggest mistake was redshirting Noshawn Marino because of what he could have done had he played in 2006. And I know Matthew Stafford threw almost twice as many interceptions as he did touchdowns in 2006. Would you have needed to pass that many times? 2006 if you had Noshawn Marino?
I'm looking at the 2006 schedule right now. So Tennessee beat Georgia 51-33. Okay, we're gonna ignore that. They lost to Vandy 24-22. You can't tell me that Noshawn Marino would not have made a difference in that game against Vanderbilt, right?
Oh yeah.
Against Florida, cocktail party 21-14. Probably would have made a difference there, I would think. But at a minimum, you have Kentucky. They lost 24-20. He would have made a difference in that game. You would have been 10-2 that year.
100%.
And probably kept Florida from winning a national championship.
Yeah.
The biggest part, yeah.
Look, Mark, I love you. I do. But come on now.
Let Florida win too.
Yeah.
Come on now.
They would have been a basketball school.
They would have. Probably still are.
Yeah, Kirby knows how to beat Florida into being a basketball school.
Yeah.
I will say I'm a little disappointed watching this game. Did not see any blood-filled tears from Noshawn Marino.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a pretty anticlimactic game.
It was. I still would love to know what exactly caused the blood-filled tears from Noshawn. But considering that they played, like they panned to him during the national anthem of every game while he was in Denver, and he was crying bloody tears during the national anthem, it's the most American thing you could possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
So, love it. Love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Kaleb seems to be having connection issues, so we're going to skip ahead a little bit. Georgia had two of the current top 10 leading rushers of all times on this team. Noshawn, who's currently in 6th. Thomas Brown, who's currently in 10th. Thomas Brown dealt with a pretty significant injury during this season. It's crazy to think about where he would be had he not been injured.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that so many guys passed him at this point, like what, 4 guys passed him in the years since this game?
Yes.
That's pretty wild.
Gurley, Chubb, Michelle for sure.
Yeah.
And I think Swift has as well.
That feels right, yeah.
Nobody since then. Nobody since 2019. It's kind of gross that the Georgia rushing game has been that bad. But
yep.
I do want to highlight Geno Atkins, who I feel like has gone under the radar as far as Georgia fans go. So Geno Atkins played in this game. He got to Georgia in 2006. He had a very long NFL career. After playing for 4 years in Athens, he was drafted in 2010, retired in 2020.
Long career, man, in the NFL.
In his position, too.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle, and he played 8 or 9 of those seasons with Cincinnati. Which,
I felt like he played most.
I'm sorry you had to live in Ohio.
Yeah.
But
tough. It's basically Kentucky.
Yeah,
it's fair.
And then, just a couple other names that we're going to talk about. So we got linebacker Rennie Curran. We had Dannell Ellerby on this team. And then another player that I feel like goes under the radar as a Georgia player, not necessarily as an NFL player, Center Fernando Velasco. A lot of people are going to
I
remember him from his time with the
loved
Tennessee
this
Titans.
guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I loved his name. I loved his attitude. I loved the way he played. I loved all of it.
Fernando.
And he played for a long period of time with the Titans.
Yeah.
He was in the NFL until 2016, started his career as an undrafted free agent as a center. So that was like back-to-back centers Mark Richt had that went undrafted and then proceeded to have long NFL careers. David Andrews just retired.
Just
Fernando
retired.
Velasco played a long time at that position in the NFL. But
What like Rennie Curran though, just shout out to him because if y'all remember the video from the guy that was all painted white in the Steve Spurrier video, shout out Rennie
yes,
Curran in that video. That might be his claim to, I mean, it's not his claim to fame, but like if like casuals are watching, that's what you know Rennie Curran from is when Rennie Curran's popping on a tackle or whatever he said.
also, if you don't remember Rennie Curran, go back. I'm sure there's a YouTube clip somewhere of his highlights. Every single one of them's targeting.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, dude, Rennie Curran's a freaking boss, man. I love Rennie Curran.
He was a human bullet.
He's a
He,
missile. Heat-seeking
yes,
missile.
yeah, he did not hit someone without the intent of making sure they did not get up.
For sure. Yeah, dude, he was
Um,
great.
but another important part about this Georgia team is they had three freshmen starting on the offensive line. We are going to go ahead and get into the Hawaii team at this point. So, 2007, and this is a personal like belief comparison metaphor. 2007 Hawaii is an early version of 2017 UCF.
Okay.
Far and away the best non-Power 5 conference champion. 95% of the teams in the country would not come close to beating this team.
They had the best offense in the country, like by far this year.
Significantly best offense in the country. But the problem is, just like with UCF in 2017, UCF in 2017 was not hanging with Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I don't care who has anything to say about it. We can talk to Scott Frost himself. I don't care. You cannot convince me that UCF team beats Georgia, Alabama, or Oklahoma.
No, no.
And we saw that with the 2007 Hawaii team. They
Mhm.
were the best of the rest. Still wasn't good enough.
Yep.
And so, I think because of when this happened, being a year after the 2006 Fiesta Bowl where Boise went over and beat Oklahoma, I think that made a lot of people think that Hawaii had a chance.
hmm
But Oklahoma was also only a 7.5 point favorite in that game.
Yeah, and Georgia was like I think a 9.5 point favorite in this game.
Significant, but not a ton, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So June Jones was an underrated coach as far as the Group of Five goes in the WAC at the time. Shortly after that, changed to the Mountain West Conference. But 78 wins in 9 years. Colt Brennan, rest in peace.
hmm
All-time rankings. At the time, he rated first in passing touchdowns in Hawaii history, 131. I'm pretty sure that
I
was
think in like
also first in college.
Yeah, NCAA history. I think this is all what he had at the
Yeah,
time.
like Colt Brennan deserves a little bit more respect on his name
hmm
for modern college because completion percentage 70.7. I know a lot of guys beat that in a single season. I mean, Joe Burrow, Stetson Bennett, I know has. I think Carson did. I
I was like
know
Carson was close
Shadur
to that.
did.
Yeah, but like they're throwing all checkdowns and shit like that. Like
Oh,
Cole
bro.
Brennan was not throwing that stuff at this point.
Yeah, no, Colt Brennan had the he very much had the why can I not remember this guy's name? Um
Mike Leach.
No. Who is the fat golfer that sits at Hooters all the time?
Oh, Daly.
John Daly.
Yeah.
Colt Brennan had the John Daly mentality of grip it and rip it. That was
Yeah.
the Hawaii offense back in the day. But he was first in passing efficiency, third in all-time passing yards. So just to kind of expand a little bit on this Hawaii offense and how phenomenal they were. They played 13 games before the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
They punted a total of 32 times throughout the season.
That's insane.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. But Devon Bess, I do want to just kind of emphasize the fact that Fox was ESPN before ESPN. So Devon Bess, Hawaii player, phenomenal receiver at the time. They were talking about his recruiting story, and instead of anyone else's recruiting story, they decided to talk about his. In the middle of the Sugar Bowl, the biggest game of his career. And if you don't know, he was recruited for playing his juvenile detention center flag football team against a high school flag football team, and Hawaii was recruiting someone from the high school and saw him on tape. That is the reason that Devon Bess got the scholarship offer to Hawaii.
That's probably the only way he could have got a scholarship because, like, if he's trying to get like federal student aid, he wouldn't have got that as a felon.
Yeah, no. Like he committed a legitimate crime, but there's so many better ways for Fox to go about that, right? Like this
Yeah.
is hardcore 2020 NFL draft vibes that I'm getting here, of where they're like, "Hey, this guy had the most rushing yards in the country this year, but did you know his mom did crack?"
He committed the most murders of any prospect in the NFL draft. Very good.
If you haven't heard, this is 2020's Aaron Hernandez.
I mean, it's the same time period.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. But shout out Devon Bess for playing as well as he did in this game.
Yeah.
He was one of the few bright spots as far as this game goes. I mean, him, their receiver, ironically number 84, but last name Rivers. I can't remember his first name. Like they had a number of bright spots in this game as far as the offense goes, and just couldn't combine all those bright spots to really compete.
Yeah. Tough.
But getting into the game itself, the first offensive play for Hawaii was to delay a game.
In a bowl game.
In a bowl game. Second play was a false start, so reminiscent of 2022 Tennessee.
Yep.
But allegedly a neutral site. I don't think Hawaii plays at a neutral site unless you're talking about LA against an East Coast team, just distance wise. But Hawaii punted third and out and committed what would have been targeting and the death penalty had that happened today.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Mikey Henderson, his last play of his Georgia career, was getting a traumatic brain injury on this punt recovery.
They talked about that a lot being his last game period, and the fact that he got hit like that.
Right. He catches the ball and catches about 2 weeks worth of a nap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the end of his career. And I feel like a lot of this slips by people. In 2007, they did have a 15-yard penalty for helmet-to-helmet contact. It was just never called.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the first Georgia drive was a physical beatdown. Stafford and the wide receivers couldn't really get anything going. But Thomas Brown, primarily Thomas Brown, if we're being entirely honest with each other. And then at the end, Noshawn Marino carried the team into the end zone. Noshawn had a 17-yard touchdown and scored with Hawaii having 10 guys in the box.
Yeah, the broadcast made a big deal about the 10 guys in the box aspect of that. Like they talked about it even going in the second half, how like Georgia was able to do whatever they wanted, even with 10 guys in the box.
Yeah, it was fairly demoralizing for Hawaii, but
Yeah.
on another dark note, Hawaii was able to stop screens.
Mm-hmm.
Like Carson Beck stopped Snapchatting girls that were not his girlfriend. So they couldn't.
Yeah.
They were completely unable to do it. Georgia threw screens like Mike Bobo thought 2025 was the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
Or 2024 was the Sugar Bowl from 2007. And by that I mean it was every other play except they actually worked in 2007.
Yeah, against against a whack team, yes.
Yeah. So I will say the commentary or Hawaii could not compete on the line of scrimmage. Georgia was getting significant pressure with 3 and 4 man pressures on defense and run wild on offense. This I'm going to talk about. I'll just go ahead and talk about it. Colt Brennan, the fact that he was able to play in this game until into the fourth quarter just tells you how committed he was.
Dude, he's tough as hell. I mean, he got beat to death in this game.
Right.
No pun intended. RIP Colt Brennan, but
right, like
he got to beat it.
I really feel like you cannot talk about this game without talking about how many sacks he took. But at the same time, like nothing but respect to this guy for what he did at Hawaii at the next level, wherever he went in life. So much respect to Colt Brennan, but he got the shit kicked out of him. Like no puns intended. I think he ended up taking 10 sacks.
It was
So many of those completely unblocked before he got hurt to the point where they brought somebody else in.
Georgia's defensive end, Marcus Howard, he ended up being the MVP of the Sugar Bowl. He had three sacks, which was at the time a BCS record for sacks in a game. He had on Colt Brennan.
And so if you guys, obviously we're modern Georgia fans, there were so many hits in this game that reminded me of 2019 Eric Stokes at Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
That you couldn't, it would have been a list to put them on this. Because Georgia had 2 defensive touchdowns in which a defensive player destroyed Colt Brennan's soul and someone else picked up the ball in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how bad their lines of scrimmage were going into the second half of this game.
It was kind of sort of a tough watch. I mean, if you're just being an objective observer of this game.
It was. Like, as Georgia fans, I at least felt bad for Colt Brennan. 17 years later, I was like, good Lord, his ribs hurt.
Yeah. It was tough to watch at times, but if you're making like a Georgia highlight tape of like the last century or this century or whatever, like a lot of the highlights would be from this game.
It would be. But so I'm going to take a lot more issues with the commentary crew here.
Okay.
Because as we talked about, some guys that have issues later in life. With about 12 and a half minutes left in the third quarter, Georgia's up 24-3. 24-3, that is a 3-possession game with almost half of the game to go. The commentary crew was giving Mark Richt in Georgia. It was giving Mark Richt in Georgia a hard time for continuing to try to score. Like, why are you throwing the ball 12 and a half minutes left in the third quarter? Why are you throwing the ball? You can run the clock out. And it's like, whoa.
There's a half a game left.
So we have half a game left, and have you also never watched a Georgia game?
Exactly.
But no, like that was a big issue for me. And then later into the game, like towards the beginning of the fourth quarter, the commentary crew was talking trash about Mark Richt after they had put Joe Cox into the game. He threw a pass in the red zone, and they're like, "Why is Mark Richt still trying to score passing touchdowns? This is disrespectful towards Hawaii." It's like, whoa. You're trying to get the backup legitimate reps,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly you're the bad guy. What is this?
And I mean, and Joe Cox ended up being your starter after Matt Stafford left, so he was a starter for a full year afterward. So like every rep counted. It would have been nice that if he would have got even more meaningful reps.
Ask Kelly about those meaningful reps.
She was a big fan.
Big fan of the meaningful
Huge,
reps.
huge fan of Big Joe Cox.
And with that, we will never talk to Matt. But I will say my favorite play in this game, a very large Hawaii player tried to push around the Georgia punter. Late in the game, it's a blowout. I want to say at this point, Hawaii had 0-1 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And Georgia's punter goes and straight up blindsides this lineman, pushes him into the ground, and stands over him. He gets called for it. But that was awesome, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That's the most Brett Thorson thing imaginable for that play.
Mm.
And there's nothing I could say about Brett Thorson.
I hope Brett is back, like full strength, week 1.
I would love to know 2 things: which knee he hurt, and which knee is better to have hurt as a punter.
That's a good question.
It really is, because the plant leg in my head matters just as much as the kicking leg. But I need to know. Because, I'm not allowed to talk about breakout players this year.
No, we can't do that.
But if Brett's able to play this year, I'm real excited about it.
So, just for gigs, if you had to guess, like Brett Thorson's like height and weight, what would you guess?
I'm gonna guess 5'11", 215.
You're underselling him big time. He's 6'2", 235, according to the UGA website. As a punter, 6'2", 235.
That is what we call a unit.
Yeah.
You know what? That is from this point forward, the goal of the offseason is to talk to Brett Thorson on this podcast.
Dude, you know what? I think we can do it. We gotta push. But I think we can do it.
Man, I got a friend that lives in Canberra. Australia is like the size of Georgia. That's a joke. I understand it's like half the size of the United States. But like
Georgia, Australia, it's all penal colony. Got a lot of
facts. Big facts. Except for in Georgia, we push the British away instead of saying, "Yes, sir." Anyway, look, I have a friend that lives in Australia through COVID. I have a lot of opinions there because of that. We're not going into it. We're not a political podcast.
King Charles is not our head of state, for the record.
He is not. But so that's it for this episode of To Hell with Everyone, talking about the 2007 Sugar Bowl against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors.
Was the Rainbow Warrior part necessary? That is their name. That's fair.
That is their name. But If y'all want to hear more stuff like this, let us know. You know what? I do want to mention one thing real quick. If any of y'all are still listening, I hope you are. With June being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, if you don't have anyone in your personal life to reach out to, contact the podcast, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, Twitter, Mike, myself, Caleb at Dog Sports Memes. If you don't have anyone in your personal life that you can talk to about stuff, reach out to one of us. We all do have day jobs, so it may take a minute for us to get back to you, but we would all much rather talk to you through Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever, than read your obituary. So please reach out if you're having some problems. I know as guys we don't like to talk about it, but we've all had those type of issues at some point or another. So reach out if you're having those issues. But always remember there's nothing finer in the land
than a drunken obnoxious Georgia fan.